All righty, folks, buckle in. We're at our last demo before lunchtime today. I'm going to give folks a couple of minutes to make their way in here. Looks like they're making their way in here pretty quickly. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce colleagues Maya Carmo from Storyblok and Michael Kinkaid from Reason 1E. I'm going to turn it over to them and go off screen and off camera. But guys, I'm here if you need me, okay?
Cheers.
Thank
Thanks.
you so much, Reggie. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for joining the session. So I understand it's the last one before lunch. Hopefully we can work up an appetite for you guys here. I will be doing the quickest, shortest, sweetest introduction to Storyblok possible because I know you guys want time with Michael and the platform. And we've been told there's a lot of questions coming our way, and we're really welcoming all of those. So thank you so much for joining. Quickly about Storyblok, we are a headless content management system, right? Which means that Michael is going to show you guys in a little bit of detail what that actually can entail for a project like the one from Crew Network that we're going to present. We have been consistently chosen in G2 and others as basically top of mind and top choice in terms of content management system. We are over 160,000 users of Storyblok worldwide, with actually over 240 enterprise clients at a global level. And what we really do here at Storyblok, when we're talking about, content management and content management system, we believe that the content, the modern content, is exactly what companies have got to do. And if you can please move on to the next slide. Thank you, Michael. Modern content, it is complex. It is constantly evolving. Modern content is fast, it is personalized, and it's omni-channel. So when you're thinking about what modern content can truly entail for a company, it's really making sure that you're talking to your client at every channel possible and talking actually to them in a more personalized way whenever that is a possibility. And if you can move to the next one, please, Michael. The biggest problem that we see throughout Storyblok's clients and all the people that we talk to, and that's a little bit of what Michael's going to touch as well, is that only 6% of businesses are currently truly able to deliver these personalized omni-channel experiences. And when businesses are not empowered to do these, when teams are not empowered to do this, we see that business really suffers. Like I said, sweet and short version of it. I really just now this piece to Michael. Thank you so much.
Cheers, Maya. So thanks. So just again, similar to Maya, a little bit about Reason One, not too much. So we're a full service digital agency. So you can behold our 42 lovely faces, 23 years in business, middles of projects and awards. We create, useful, inclusive websites for several industries, specifically healthcare, not-for-profits, and also member-based organizations. So speaking of which, here are a few we have partnered with across the United States and Canada, including Crew Network, the commercial real estate women's network, which is our case study for today. So enough about Reason One. Let's actually start with who Crew Network is. And Crew Network is the real estate industry's premier business networking organization. So they advance all women in commercial real estate through business networking, industry research, leadership development, and career outreach. And in terms of some quick stats, they operate in 80 markets worldwide, which will become a point we'll talk about later. They have over 14,000 members, and they've got very high approval ratings within their membership with 72% member referrals. Now, we've been their agency of record for many years, and back in 2021, they developed a 5-year digital transformation plan, and they came to us with the challenge to help them implement the key goal of launching a world-class digital experience, and one that would, as you can imagine, increase membership, better serve those members by increasing engagement, connections, delivering more self-service to the members. Under the hood, this meant we moved to a more mature enterprise architecture, which enabled us to modernize the delivery of digital experiences. And for the web channel specifically, this meant, over 50 websites. So I think it's now 55 sites and chapter sites. And it's not just multi-site, but also multilingual, given they're a global organization. Now, there's so many things we could highlight about the digital transformation, but we'll keep it focused on the new approach used to deliver digital experiences for the websites. To explain the new approach, we're going to quickly compare it to the old. So first, let's break down what we need for any sort of core web experience. Content management, asset management, search, forms, identity management. So think member records online, features like single sign-on, and finally, we need a high-level approach to integration. So specifically, platform integrations for important things like talking to the association management software. Previously, Crew used an all-in-one approach. So in other words, they leaned a lot on a generalist web CMS.
Now, I won't mention the vendor, we'll call it Platform X, but you can see that it not only owned the core web experience,
but was also deeply involved in things like identity management, which was getting complex with platform user roles, with net forum user roles. We've got on records, we've got SSO that was getting to be a tad brittle. And finally, for integrations, there was a lot of dependency on vendor SDKs, which locks you in a bit more. With the new approach, there was a move away from sort of the generalist all-in-one platform to composing a digital experience platform specifically based on what our needs analysis and platform evaluation engagement determined for Crew Network. You want to map your approach and technology to your needs, and not just the software that an agency such as ours just happens to prefer using. I've heard that old adage, when all you have is a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail. So based on their needs, the new composable approach started with embracing Storyblok, a headless content as a service platform that's cloud native and API first. So this is where our content is going to live. As part of the digital transformation project, Crew Network also adopted Cloudinary as a DAM. So not just for asset management for the web channel, but for their entire organization, all of the chapters and across all of the channels. So asset management both internally and externally. Next, search engine that already had integrations with platforms that they needed was added to the stack. A form service wasn't needed for launch, but is being evaluated and can be added in later thanks to the composability of the architecture. A dedicated identity management platform called Catalyst Fire was brought in that had full SSO and with NetForm and supported our tech stack. And finally, as part of the enterprise architecture, which included this move to an API first approach, a dedicated integration platform as a service solution called Shuffle Exchange was added to our stack. So this would provide APIs that could decouple the services and also gives us a standardized approach to integrations. So let's look at the new website, which launched last October. So just going to browse around, going to become a member, going to find a chapter, and here you'll see this whole idea of 80 major markets and all the different websites. So I can look to see the different chapters that we have in different states within the US. It's not just the United States, we can go to different countries. So I'm in Toronto, let's go to Ontario, and we'll go and find the Toronto Crew. Again, go into the chapter site. It's got different theme, but it's again based on this consistent design system that we have in place here. Not just English-speaking countries. I can go to France and find that we've got a Crew here as well. And here we have, a chapter site that's been fully localized within the solution that we're about to talk to. They have a foundation as well. This was another site, but as part of the transformation, it got consolidated. So within the foundation, we can learn more. We can do things like come in and make a donation to the foundation in different causes. This e-commerce is using an integration to BigCommerce. And then finally, we have the member portal. And this is a custom built member portal that's using, again, our approach with APIs to build out the features that members would need. So as you can expect, I can come in, I can manage my member profile. I can make edits to the profile as well. And whenever I save this and submit it, it will go through our API layer and will update NetForm. But other things you would expect as a member, being able to look at my invoices, I can come in and look at events that I've registered for. I obviously manage my membership. I might want to renew it as well. And then finally, if I am an employee of a chapter or I'm an admin of a chapter, we have business intelligence for those chapter admins as well. So I can come in, I can access Power BI reports that are being brought in directly into the experience. And I can look at how my membership's doing and get more analysis there as well, and just drill down based on my access, my roles and permissions as to what I can actually see. And finally, we've got search. As you can imagine, all sites have search. We're not just searching content that's within Storyblok, but we're also searching content that's within their actual community platform, which is called Higher Logic. So this gives you a general tour of the website. What we're going to do now is we're going to drill into the implementation within Storyblok, the management of content, the management of experiences specific to the web channel as well. We'll do this. First of all, let's just go and we'll just look at a web page on the website, and then we'll see how we manage it. So we've got this hero banner. Underneath this, we've got an accordion with different accordion items. We've got a video, which is bringing in content from YouTube. And then at the bottom of the page, we've got, some calls to action. We've got this 50/50. We've got this CTA to meet our team. So how do we manage this web channel experience within a headless platform such as Storyblok? First of all, where do we go to manage the content? So I've logged into Storyblok. And the first place I'm going to go to is my content repository. So here in the content repository, you'll see I've got my content structured in folders. So I can come in, jump to the crew network, and go find that About Us page, and then start to edit it. And the first thing that you'll notice is that we've got visual page building. Even though it's a headless platform, it's channel agnostic. Storyblok are aware that ultimately one of the key channels that you want to manage is the web. So we want to make that as easy as possible for editors. So we have visual page building on the left-hand side here. I can actually see the content that I'm working on. And whenever I click on something, Storyblok is going to highlight that for me. You're working on the single item CTA. And then on the right-hand side, I can see the settings that I can actually edit for this. So I might want to, toggle this to display full width. Or if I go up and check out another component, I can come in and I can start to edit text. As you notice, as I'm typing text, the live preview is dynamically updating on the left-hand side. So I'm getting that instant feedback whenever I make these changes. And I have tabs categorizing or grouping my settings. So maybe there's different layout options for this specific component. I can come in, I can configure where the image goes. I can go in, I can change the background color. What's important to note is that what I'm allowed to do as an editor is based on the design system that's been put into this implementation. So I can't go and select green, that wouldn't work, but I can select something within the design system. And again, as I continue to click on components, I'll get settings that are specific to that. I can select this accordion component. I can select a sub-component within it as well. And I can instantly be editing that component. So an easy way to go and actually navigate the web channel. And those settings will change based on what I'm selecting. It's not just editing components, but with page building, I also want to be able to add components. I also want to be able to change the order of them. And again, this is all visual drag and drop within the platform. So I can bring this video above the accordion, or I can move that down as well. So very easy to manage the web channel and make those edits as an editor. And likewise, here I'm looking at the desktop version, but I may also want to not only see it in different viewports, but also edit it as well, edit the components. We have that ability. Now, as a headless platform, we're not just managing content for the web, which requires this sort of visual view. We can also, if we want, go in and toggle into a form view. And maybe this is something that your editors prefer working with, or they might be working with a specific type of content that just requires it. So I can come in here, and if I want to, I can toggle back. And again, that's something that we can decide based on the content that we're editing in Storyblok. So we might have types of content that, that don't actually require it. So in our example here, we have that with regards to settings and some layout configuration. If I go into this, there's no visual preview. As an editor, I just go in and I edit the content structure as I need to. This one doesn't need it. But again, for the web channel, a lot of what you're going to be working on is going to be web pages, content. So you have that visual editor here that you can access whenever that's required. Which brings me on to content structure. So we kind of started to allude it. If you look, I'm clicking around stuff and I've got different settings, like this page has navigation, it's got SEO. I click here, I get these different values. This is asking me for a video URL. This has got the settings here for a 50/50. In terms of, what actually decides this, is it coming with a 50/50 component? Ultimately, when you start a project with a headless platform like Storyblok, all of your content is going to get modeled based on your content strategy, your design system, and that is what's going to determine, what your editors can manage and can see here. So all of your content needs are going to get put into what's called a content model, and that defines the types of content. So for example, an event, a resource, we've looked at a page, an event CTA, the structure. So this was the fields. Maybe the event has, details text. Maybe the resource has a file, which is an asset, but also the relationships between them. So, our event has a recording, maybe of the webinar, and that's going to point to a resource. Or our page has, content with a lot of blocks that we can reorder, and that's going to point to an event CTA. So your content model is your types of content, it's your structure, and it's also your relationships. And for something like Storyblok, which is again channel agnostic, not just managing content on the website, but also channel or content for other channels. Our model is going to be a mix of these things. We're going to have types that are specific for the web. Like a page is pretty much specific for a website, event CTA. But we also have content types that are, channel agnostic, like the event or the resource could be being consumed by an app, could be maybe you're going to print out a brochure of your events. In Storyblok, we manage this content modeling within what's known as the block library. So they're content types that refer to them as blocks, hence the name Storyblok. So your content strategist, your people who are managing your model are going to come into this area here to be able to go and manage the blocks. And our content model for Crew Network, the total size is 84. And if we go in, let's have a look at that, the page type that we were looking at previously. This is where I can design that. So you'll see, I've got these different tabs, which I'm creating just to make the life easier for my editors, rather than seeing 50 different settings. I want to make the editing experience easier for them. So I can create a new tab, I can reorder the tabs. Within a tab, I'm specifying the field. So this page has a summary image, and that's an asset. But there are many different field types within Storyblok that you can use. And within there, you can configure them. Maybe it's required. There's also settings that are specific to a field, like the file types that are allowed. So again, I am designing the model based on what the editors actually need. Another thing you're going to want to do in any content model is semantic tagging or categorization. And you can do that within Storyblok using the data sources feature. So here you'll see a few of the data sources that we used. You can think of a data source as being like a name and a sort of a value pair. So, editors are seeing what's on the left, but what's on the right is a configuration setting that you don't want them changing. Probably a better example of this to look at would be the theming that we saw earlier. So again, I've got all these different theme names, like Fearless Blue, and it's associated to this theme dash Fearless Blue. I don't want editors to have to keep typing that out. I don't even want editors to type out Fearless Blue because they'll forget that name and maybe they'll spell it wrong. So we're using data sources, not just for categorization, but also to power features in the editing interface. If I go to the site settings for one of my chapters and go to the theme, so here I'll see that dropdown and I'll see that value, Fearless Blue. This is coming from that data source. So the editor doesn't have to know that there might be a code name underneath the hood that's powering the actual theming. Now, another thing that you can do for tagging is tagging, not just categorization. So if we have a look at the tagging features in Storyblok, you can use these on the live site. You can also use them within Storyblok as well. So here I've got my tags, I've tagged content. I might be using this on the front end for the end user experience. But I can also use it in Storyblok. So if you have a look here, I've got my content repository. I could have a lot of content in here. As an editor, one quick way of finding content could be to use tags. So I can filter the inventory by tags. Select a tag, it will filter it down, filter my inventory to items that I'm working on, and I can come in, I can continue to work with that. Now these tags, you can save these filters as well for your editors so that whenever they come into the content repository, they can get to the content more quickly. One of the key criteria for selecting Storyblok, again, was this ability to manage multiple sites within a headless platform. And having done the needs analysis, it's really where Storyblok was ahead of the competition, being able to manage multiple sites, multiple domains, multiple look and feel, all within a single content repository, which was key for this idea of being able to have a content as a service for your whole organization. So if we have a look at that, you can already see here within a folder, we have a folder for Crew Network. We also have other folders for our chapters, and this is how that's structured. And if we go in and have a look at, say, the Toronto folder, we have all of the content that's specific to this chapter. And if we go into this, we again can see that it has a specific look and feel within the design system. And there's certain ways in which the chapters can modify this. If you look at Miami, we're getting a different color. We've got different image treatment as well. Or within Houston, again, slightly different treatment there as well with regards to how this chapter is presented. So in terms of how this is done within the site, really it comes down to rules and permissions. So if we have a look at that, again, we have all our separate folders here. And as like a super admin, I can access all of them, which I currently am. But if I'm just a member of one chapter or several chapters, that is going to be managed through rules and permissions within Storyblok, which are very, very granular. It's a great feature. So have a quick look. We'll go into settings and go into roles. You can see that, yes, we've got, we have default roles that come with the platform like admin or editor, but critically, we can also create custom roles as well. So here for Tucson, we've got, 2 different roles for languages. And then within a role, we can configure permissions at a really granular level across things like, content, data sources that we just looked at, tags. But importantly, for the content, we can also say that they can only access this folder. So the editor here, if they log into Storyblok, is only going to see this content. And we can go further. We can go all the way down into the content model or the blocks and say that they can only access certain types of content types, but they can only access certain fields within that. So there's lots of flexibility here to get and design really complex content governance that meets your organization's needs. Again, localization, because we have multi-sites, but they can also be in different languages. There's 2 versions of localization in Storyblok. If say your English content and your French content matches 1-to-1 and always will, you can use field level localization. If you need more flexibility, maybe those language versions will have different information architectures, then you can use folder level localization, which is what we did. So at the top level, we have our language folders, and inside that, we've got our chapter localized versions of those content. As an example, the French site here, similar editing interface. There's other features that Storyblok has to be able to browse around within the interface between different language versions as well. In terms of extensibility, it's a cloud-first platform. I'm not managing their software. I'm not having to upgrade the code base, but I do want to be able to extend it. And Storyblok gives you the ability to do that. One way in which we did this was we created a chapter builder. So through network, there's 55 chapters in the platform right now. Whenever the next one comes around, they want to be able to create that quite easily. So we built this custom interface for them where they can select a template, they can go in and they can configure different site settings. And then ultimately, whenever they run this, it'll run through the steps of actually creating and deploying that chapter to the host. They don't have to do anything for that. This was a great extension that we could put into Storyblok. Storyblok also includes apps out of the box. So they have a full directory of different applications that you can see here and that you can install. Ones that we installed, just wanted to shout out Cloudinary. So Cloudinary, again, digital asset management tool. If we go into the content, we can see how it's actually being used here. So whenever we come into any piece of content and look at an image, this is where we have the integration. So we can see that this is the current image, but if we wanted to swap that out, we can come in and replace it, and it's going to open up Cloudinary's media library image selector. Again, direct integration. And whenever I come in and actually find an image, what it's doing is it's going to be saving that reference. We're not, making multiple copies of that image, but we're getting all the power of Cloudinary with regards to the features and functionality it has for image optimization and some of the new AI stuff that's coming in as well. Storyblok, however, does have a really strong native asset management tool. And for 99% of the cases, this is going to be what you want. If you have a digital asset management across your organization, though, then again, you can do that integration. Just have a quick look. We'll go into another demo site here and go to the asset management within Storyblok. So similarly, we've got folders. We can also put in roles and permissions on these folders as well. With our assets, we can make them public. We can make them private. For image assets, we can also go in and we can come in and we can, edit an image and crop and save a new version of it. However, we don't need to actually save cropped versions of images. What we can do is we can use Storyblok's image service to do it dynamically. So for example, I can create a grayscale version of that image just by calling for the image with these parameters. So we have parameters that we can use to create dynamic versions of images, which is a fantastic feature. So finally, we've got all these different platforms in our architecture, and how do they come together? So getting a little bit geeky, we've got our different services. Our services are using things called APIs, webhooks, and orchestration to talk to each other. So they're API first. They're in the cloud because we want to have that performance scalability for the APIs. And then our channels, like our websites, our apps, are consuming this through those APIs. So for a quick demo, let's do something in Storyblok and have this information go somewhere to another application. So we're going to update this page, change the title, and we're going to publish it. And then if I jump into Slack, you'll be able to see if we wait for it, that there's now been this communication between Storyblok and Slack. And we can go back here to the page in question. So how has this been done? How is this integration being put together? We kind of referenced it there in our diagram. First of all, we're using webhooks. And webhooks is a way in which we can get Storyblok to kind of poke something else and be like, hey, something's happened that I want you to act on. So in Storyblok, we can come into the settings and we can look at our webhook area. We have this one that we just created that is going to be pushing information out. So here's the endpoint URL that we want to poke. In terms of what's going to trigger that, there's many different events. So for us, we published a story. We're interested in that. But maybe it's an asset's being created, or typical scenario, maybe workflows changed and you want to update something else. So again, we're using webhooks to do that. And whenever they're called, Storyblok has a log that we can go in and make sure that they're running successfully, and we can see the payload as well that's been sent out. Now, typically you have something in the middle brokering the conversation. Storyblok's like something's happened and Slack wants that message. What we use is we can use integration services such as Zapier, which you can see here, to actually go and to use a low code or no code way of connecting our services together. Here we're connecting to that webhook, we're sending it to Slack, but we could be using a variety of different or integrations all out of the box, which you get with Zapier. Maybe we're not using Slack, maybe we're using MS Teams. Maybe the information from Storyblok has to go to our CRM. Maybe we're using Microsoft Dynamics, or maybe we're using something else. So just being aware of time, I'm just going to go quickly through how we did this with actual crew networks. So we didn't use Zapier. We used another integration platform as a service called Shovel Exchange. And the reason why we did that was it has a similar model of, it builds integrations fast, uses connectors. But you can see here in their list of different things that they connect to, that we have platforms that we needed to talk with, like Netform. But it also uses other like IMS, Microsoft Dynamics, other AMS systems as well. And it's a long list of things that it supports. And if we scroll through and get to the very bottom, you'll see things that we actually added to this list based on this project. So for example, at the very bottom, we're going to have Storyblok, which we added. And also, as we saw in the stack, we have Fuse Search. And we also have for the events and integration with Events there as well. So that's it. If you're interested in knowing how you can sort of align your needs with the right technology, please check out our website where we can share information about our platform evaluation service. Likewise, to know more about Storyblok, please go to storyblok.com and you can find out about this excellent headless content as a service platform that really is enterprise level and can basically take on any scenario that we've thrown at it. So cheers, folks.
Cheers yourself, man. You'll pack the whole bunch into that
Boom.
time frame. Good Lord.
There's so much to see in this platform, seriously.
I'll tell you, you go through some demos and there's a lot and you don't get it. I got all of it. So thank you so much for that. And
cheers, man.
Storyblok indeed does look like a powerful platform. So thank you guys for being here and showing that to us. And Maya, you did work up appetites.
There you go. Well, actually, Michael did all the talking and the working of appetites. That was incredible, Michael. Thank you.
You built the software.
Very thorough. Thank you guys so much.
Seriously.
Okay.
Thanks.